There's nothing, almost nothing compared to the United States and China going on in Europe when it comes to artificial intelligence and cryptocurrencies, but we were the first to regulate, you know?
The EU is the running joke in the US tech industry.
And I'm like, so you knew that you are going to create all sorts of administrative burdens and financial burdens on the European industry, on the most innovative, the digital industry. Basically, our house is on fire, and you have someone who is asking who is allowed to open the door in order to get out of it.
Okay, here we are. This is episode number 3. Antonios, how are you?
I'm very good. How are you, Krzysztof?
I'm super happy to see how many comments we are getting on our videos. Have you
amazing.
Have you seen something interesting we should comment on? I
mean,
have some ideas.
You can start, but just to say that we promised that we are going to engage with the comments as well, even try to have some fun with them. But yeah, I'm happy to do it.
So yeah, the previous video that got actually some interesting comments. One from Timelapse 763, so no name but a cute nickname, said Europe talks a lot about ambition, but the budget shows the opposite. And well, we addressed this. I think we addressed this more than once already, that there is a visible lack of ambition. You can see that there is a lot since the introduction of the Draghi report, since the start of the new commission term. We see a lot of positive vibe and communication. And if you scroll through the announcement of the commission news, they keep announcing things like programs, initiatives.
So there is no lack of ambition in words.
Yes, exactly.
I like the comment. I like very much the comment from Timelapse because it has the correct diagnosis. This is what I mean. That in words, everyone is very ambitious. Europe, we have to create, Europe has to be a global actor, and it needs to play a geopolitical role, and we are a huge economy, and we have to take the advantage of that, and then we are going to regulate this, and then we're going to regulate that, and then we are going to create scale, we are going to help our businesses innovate. This is they say all this. Whoever is responsible for whatever topic comes out with a lot of ambition. But this is why I like the comment, because in the case of big ambition, it's also the money that talks. And indeed, if you look at the budget, it's, as I said in the previous episode, it's just a fraction of the budget that China and the United States has. The member states are all under significant pressure for their own budgets. And if you really want to create economies of scale and compete on a global level with these giants that we have from the East and the West, then the MFF as it was introduced, it was laughable. And I'm not even going into the details. I'm not examining the details of where the money is coming from and so on, even though we can talk about the other great plans of own resources that the EU has.
More taxes. But
more taxes, yes, of
course. We will discuss
the solution to everything.
We agreed that we will speak about the Digital Simplification Omnibus today. But before we do, I want to also look at other comments. I just want to say one thing about that, because my general feeling about the regulation being proposed right now is that it's a cleanup regulation. It's a regulation that sorts out the problems that our regulators put on the European people some time ago. And it's not addressing the bigger challenges that are actually lying ahead of us. Like, for example, I looked very briefly through the documents of the Digital Simplification Act. I didn't see the word quantum computing even once.
They are going to have a new quantum act talking about ambition.
I know they will, but like, quantum computing is gonna, like, for example, digital wallet. Once quantum computing is here, and experts say it could arrive in 2-3 years from now. Once it's there, any wallet the European Union creates will be worthless.
Because of security, for
Yes.
security reasons. Yeah, I know. Quantum
I mean,
computing is going to
you know,
change the rules of
I'm not the
cryptography.
expert, so I don't want to put any judgments here, but I just want to feel, especially that I took the time to participate in the public hearing in the ITRE committee, and I heard what experts are saying. So I just want to feel that people working on those simplification issues that are absolutely important also understand that there is also a, you know, future of a number of scenarios coming up, and it's all interconnected. The Simplification Act, the reporting schemes, they're not, you know, in a functioning in a vacuum. They are all interconnected. The data in banking, in cybersecurity, this is
Yeah.
all
They're all interconnected, but the regulations are completely separated. Those sectors, when it comes to creating the regulatory frameworks that are going to define these sectors for the next 10 years, again, very ambitious with the rate of change in the technology these days. There is no unifying vision of where this thing is going. And that's why I also like the other comment. Can Europe afford to be unified enough to compete, but still complex enough to remain European? That's another great comment.
who
Because
asked this
look,
comment, because obviously I cannot read the name here, but I'm sure you do.
the name, no, it's a Greek name. It's Evangelos Lefkos.
Pleasure to read your comment, Evangelos.
This is again, it dissects the dilemma that we have at the moment, because we spoke about it. We are very different. We are fragmented, but different. But also we have something that unites us all. We have common heritage, common history, common civilization, whether people like it or not, and whether people like the word or not, we do have a common civilization. And the goal that we have in front of us, in order to be able to compete with the United States and with China, is how to unify this to the level which is appropriate in order to be able to compete with them without losing our soul, without losing our identity. And this balance between the cultural diversity and the need to be united is what is going to define basically the position and the nature of the European project for this century that we're living in.
I mean, it's an interesting comment because it shows a very basic feel among citizens that I also have personally, that I'm not sure if we are strong enough, if we have the power, like we discussed also in the previous episode about the revolution that Europe is awaiting, the political revolution that we're awaiting. But there is this feeling of uncertainty. Are we strong? Are we capable? Have we still got it?
It's to be decided. I told you before. Do you think that the Europeans can agree that they're going to be, marginal and irrelevant for history and for the future of the world? I don't think so. I don't believe that. Not even for a moment. That's why I'm talking about our survival instinct that is going to be inevitably is going to kick in at some point. And we, at that moment, we will find compromises and we will find golden ratios between being culturally diverse and united at the same time. I have absolutely zero doubt about that. I'm not even an optimist. This is a very practical view of things. It's just survival instinct that will push us towards finding functional, operating ways of working together.
There is also one thing that...
And this goes great with the next comment, which is from Beluga Amore. Okay, so we need a different playbook for Europe. This is it. This should be a scandal, he says, why so few people are talking about it. And that also links
But the
back
playbook
to...
is exactly in what Europe is, because we are not the US, we are not China, we are not India. We are just one more word to what you said before. The complexity of Europe comes from our interconnection. And that reminds me also, and I encourage everyone who has the time to watch our first special with Jan Komasa, who said exactly that. Europe, long term, cannot be divided. because we are culturally so much interconnected. Even if someone achieves and history teaches us a very hard lesson about that. But even if divide is achieved, Europe always comes together in the end.
Yeah. And the second part of the comment, this should be a scandal why so few people are talking about it. It's because so few people are talking about it, exactly because if up until now, at least, maybe this is changing, if you were saying anything critical towards the EU, you were immediately branded as Eurosceptic, or that you were not supporting the European idea enough, which is, again, it's scandalous that we left all the criticism to the Eurosceptics and the populists and the far left and the far right. Actually, we come from a very pro-European perspective. There you go. You met at least two people, Beluga Amore, that come from a very pro-European perspective. They understand what is at stake. They want us to be both cultural, and we have some valid criticism to do in the way that the political class at the moment is handling the situation.
We spoke already about how good for Europe Donald Trump actually is, because what he does is finally waking us up. The same thing is actually starting to happen in China. I just saw a very long post on X from a Polish think tanker who participated in a Chatham House debate in China with Chinese politicians and policy people. And he said that for the first time in his life, in many years, the representatives of China were talking straight what they think. Usually, as he referred in the past, had to go a long time around the topic until you finally figured out what they want to say, because they were humble. They were playing. They were afraid to show their strength. This time, he came back with the impression that people in China are done with not showing their strength and not showing that they are the leader, and then that they just don't care about who and what thinks. They just want to exercise their power. Another wake-up call.
That's a big
Very needed
cultural
wake-up call.
shift. Trump is causing all kinds of cultural and geopolitical shifts. And I went live on Euronews TV some time ago, in January, I think, immediately after his election. And I said, Trump is the best thing that ever happened to Europe.
Yes, you were the
In the
first one
sense,
actually in Brussels to say it.
sense that his election, anyway, his administration is pushing us towards the inevitable change of thinking differently about our position, about our common vision, and our common future together. Speaking about Trump, speaking about the effect of Trump, I also see a very sneaky comment from Delonius who says, mega. I'll take that as a make Europe great again.
But I also want to say that our friend Timelapse has commented on our previous video where we discussed mainly the Draghi reality of the European competitiveness. And I love the comment, 11% implementation is embarrassing. Whoever is responsible should be fired. Well, I can say only one thing. The problem is it's so hard to say who is responsible. I don't know who we should fire for.
Oh, no, it's not hard at all. It's not hard at all.
Is it?
We are in a democracy. Therefore,
Well,
we
you
absolutely know.
can't fire everyone.
Oh, yes, you can fire everyone. Actually, the parliament can fire the whole commission cabinet whenever they want. They can do that. And it's normal. It happens like this in most parliamentary democracies around Europe. If there is a no confidence vote, if there is a no confidence vote and the MEPs decide not to support the College of Commissioners, then the whole College of Commissioners need to resign. Why not? Why not?
Do you think it's realistic that it will go this way within the next year or so?
I'll tell you what, on Monday, no, when was it? It was on Wednesday, I think, Wednesday morning, the Digital Omnibus package, which is supposed to be simplifying the digital regulation in Europe, was voted by the EPP, the ECR, and the Patriots. So basically the center-right and the hard-right. This is a big change because so far the majority in the European Parliament was found between the center-right, the center, and the center-left. The EPP, the Socialists, S&D, and Renew, which is, at least in name, the liberal group in the European Parliament. And this is like, maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first time where you can find majorities, so wildly different majorities in a parliament. So we're talking about a coalition between the socialists, the liberals, and the conservatives, and all of a sudden we have another coalition, or at least another majority formed between the center-right, the hard-right, and the far-right. And this is, at the same time, something that the APP can always, push back to, saying, if you don't like us, if you don't agree with us, then we will vote with the others. And the same thing,
Well,
if you
yes,
don't vote with us, we will vote with the others.
there would no be there is no way.
But here's the thing. What are the socialists and the Renew going to do? Are they going to accept that? Are they going to allow the APP to find different majorities and to completely disrespect the coalition? I mean, we have so far very muted response from them. We don't like it, but what can we do? I don't know. This is the way it seems to me. All words, but no serious repercussions. But if it was for me, how can you say that you defend your own values if you don't react to that? My reaction would be, okay, we don't have a coalition. Next vote of no confidence, we don't support. Why? Because you are disrespecting us. Whenever you don't like what we say, you go with ECR and the Patriots. It was the second time that this happened. So this creates a trend, It can happen. Absolutely, it can happen. And
Okay, that's
to
an
finish with
interesting point.
if they don't deliver the Draghi report, the implementation of the Draghi report, basically, if they don't deliver on improving the competitiveness of the European economy, the industry, if they don't relieve the European people, it's going to be their liability. And in the previous episode, I openly said that they are not effective, if not useless, in managing the situation right now. There, I said it.
Very good point. So let's talk about the digital simplification omnibus. My opening thought is that it's very well branded. It's just a simplification omnibus. It doesn't improve anything. It doesn't speed up anything. Well, it's disappointing. That's my personal reaction. I know that industry reacts enthusiastically. Business Europe said in their statement they're welcoming the package.
That's just association jargon. I mean,
Exactly.
they're always welcoming. They're always welcoming the initiatives of the Commission. And these are the people who are supposed to be defending the interests of the industry. Anyway, I'll hold my tongue for now. But this is what was happening. We have spent 10 years, the previous 10 years, more or less, but for sure the previous 5 years, regulating everything digitally, with celebratory announcements. Like Europe was the first to regulate the cryptocurrencies. Europe was the first to regulate artificial intelligence, all the things that we cannot build, by the way. There's almost nothing compared to the United States and China going on in Europe when it comes to artificial intelligence and cryptocurrencies, but we were the first to regulate,
And now we're a joke in the US. We're EU. The EU is the running joke in the US tech industry.
Exactly. How can you regulate something that you don't build? You don't even know how it is built. You don't have the capacity to build it. And then you are coming out with victorious announcements that you are regulating something that you cannot even build. It's a joke, for sure. But what it created, the so-called DSA, DMA, Digital Services Act, Digital Markets Act, whatever, what happened was that it created all sorts of regulations, and there's more coming. Digital Fairness Act, AI Code of Conduct, all kinds of stuff. And all those regulations, are supposed to complement each other, but sometimes they're overlapping each other. And it creates a landscape for the market, for the businesses, that is completely suffocating, And all these years, they were celebrating that they were voting for this legislative package. And then yesterday or 2 days ago, when the simplification package was voted, to harmonize the rules a little bit, to streamline the reporting responsibilities, minor tweaks for this. They were also celebrating that because in this way, we will make a business easier in Europe and we will save the European industry billions and billions of euros. And I'm like, so you knew that with what you are regulating, with what you're voting right now, you are going to create all sorts of burdens, administrative burdens, and financial burdens on the European industry, on the most innovative, the digital industry, the most innovative, supposedly, industry, which is also foundational, meaning that it helps every other sector in the economy. And now, instead of saying, look, we're sorry for what we've done, we created a mess. And we come now with a simplification package to make things a little bit better. You celebrate again. You were celebrating all the past 5 years, and still you're celebrating that you are, simplifying. So instead of someone having the courage and saying, look, we did a lot, we tried, we experimented, we created some confusion, and now we're sorry, it's not going to happen again. We are not going to create this kind of disadvantage for European people and industries. You come again to say how good you are that you're saving billions and billions from the European industry. What about, and that's my final thing, what about the money that already was spent, all the costs from the previous years because of the regulations? Who is going to pay for that?
I don't want us to be only criticizing the European Commission on this podcast. I have to say appreciate, because there is one industry that is seeing tremendous growth thanks to Ursula von der Leyen and her commission in this new term, and that's the lobbying industry in Brussels. Can you imagine that the Corporate Observatory just recently reported that the budget of the digital industry lobby spending in Brussels, that was at already the level of 113 million euros in 2023, this year, 2025, will be at 151 million euros. And that's only a small part of the entire lobbying business in Brussels. Because of this huge rise in the number of legislative acts, also the speed, because things are happening much faster. Lobbyists have more work, more billing hours, lobby comms people, lawyers, public affairs people, everyone in this industry has more work, more billing hours, and these people are happy.
And it's not effective because the Commission just doesn't care.
Well, of course.
If it was, I hope that lobbying was effective. Then we wouldn't be in such a difficult situation right now with so many disadvantages and so many taxes that in the end, it's the voters, it's the people, it's the consumer that pays all those corporate taxes. We wouldn't be in such a
I'm sure you were aware
emergency situation.
That I was a little bit sarcastic here, because coming from Poland, that is one of the bigger markets of the European Union, and it's one of the least represented countries in terms of how many actually Polish businesses have their lobbying representation in Brussels. And then, you see these packages coming out one after another, but we know that the spread of voices of the industry is not even among countries and citizens and businesses. And there is also a big influence of American business. And I'm not saying that American businesses shouldn't have the right to lobby. They should. They should be able to present, to contribute to the European markets, but their voice should not be the only one that is heard in Brussels, or the main one that is heard in Brussels.
Do you know which sector, which part of the economy is really growing because of all these legislations?
Tell me.
Lawyers,
Lobbying. That's
and
also
consultants.
Lawyers are lobbyists. So yeah.
I mean, if you want to comply with a European regulation right now, especially when it is in new technologies, which is complicated with climate policy, if you want to comply with climate policies, you need an army of lawyers. You need an army of consultants. This is just sad. I'm not saying that they're not doing a good job or that they're not absolutely necessary. They are everywhere in the world, in every part of the world where there is business and growth, and there's also consultants and lawyers. Absolutely understandable. But the sad reality for Europe is that it's only that. It's only lawyers and consultants and compliance and reporting and responsibility and due diligence and sustainability. This is what is thriving at the moment in Europe, but this doesn't create any growth. This doesn't create any wealth. And before you start dividing the wealth according to your policies, you first have to create it. That's why we are a running joke with the United States and China.
A while ago, I interviewed Allegro. It's a Polish marketplace, the Polish Amazon, you can say. And I interviewed them as part of my series that I publish in XYZ, a Polish news business news platform, because they just opened their office in Brussels. And one thing that shocked me is that they said that 30% of their IT stack, so the people that run the IT department, 30% of that is devoted to compliance.
30%.
Can you imagine? Like, every month, 30% of their IT team and technology has to be used to comply with growing regulations, both local and European.
You have your answer.
No, it's
we
okay
cannot go
because
on
they're
like
a
this.
huge business. They're a huge business. They can compete. It's hard for them. It's nonsense, but they do it. But where does it leave medium and small size companies who just can't afford it?
Exactly. And that's another tragedy, because only the big companies can actually assume all those responsibilities coming from the regulations that were voted.
And
The
that's why the
small and medium
single market
enterprises
in
have
Europe,
no.
it's still BS. There is no single market.
Oh, that's also another illusion, that we have a single market where in reality the infringements during the past years.
Well, you said we have an illusion. Who has that illusion? The politicians want you to have that illusions. Ursula von der Leyen maybe wants you to have that, but people don't. They don't have that. They know they can travel for free. They know they can study abroad. That's great, but I don't think that any small and medium-sized business owner, which means 90% of business owners in Europe, has the illusion that something such as a single market exists.
Absolutely. That's the reality that small and medium enterprises face right now. So basically, small business owners have to deal with a fragmented single market, which means that they have a very limited market at their disposal, mostly national or a bit of cross-border with the neighboring countries, because there are a lot of obstacles still in the single market, and some of them very, very new. The situation has become worse. And then, because if they want to become bigger and grow and to go from small and medium to big enterprises, they have such a big reporting and regulatory cost to take into consideration that there are many of them that by default, they don't want to do it because it's too costly, and it increases fundamentally the risk that already you need to take a lot of risk if you want to grow your company. And then on top of that risk, which is market-based, you have also the regulatory risk and the costs that come with it. So that's the situation. And if I can just circle back to the comments, yes, absolutely, we can ask for accountability. We can control the executive. We can control the people who decide that for us. Thank God we live in a democracy. Okay, so let's not lose hope. And the alternative to this situation is not going back to the national policies and the national sovereignty, because this is not going to be a solution. We will not be able to stand by ourselves. We need to be united.
There's also one funny thing that tells you a lot about the mindset in Brussels. We know the threats Europe is facing are existential. I don't want to overuse the word existential, but we're sort of standing in front of a cliff. And it's a big cliff. The cliff of losing competitiveness that could set us back for decades as an economy, security, and so on and so forth. And the Commission rightly tries to push things forward. It's not doing it the way it's supposed to be done, but there is some movement, right? Those acts, proposals are being put out there. So, and you have to appreciate the effort. But then on the other side, there is a number of people in Brussels who examine, for example, is the omnibus as a package of regulations together legal according to the treaties of the European Union? Can regulations be put together in one box and processed together?
It's legitimate to ask
It is
the question.
It's legitimate to ask, but posing this, framing this as this try to speed things up, to make things work, as a threat to democracy, in a time, that's my personal opinion, in a time where the only threat to democracy comes from within the system and is the lack of the ability to reform. I think that's just very unuseful to be.
Yeah, but definitely. Basically, our house is on fire, and you have someone who is asking, I don't know, who is going to open the door? Who is allowed to open the door in order to get out of it? That's the equivalent.
Where the firefighters who just arrived, certified, collect.
Let me see some ID first before you take me out of the burning building. Just please let me see some ID. Okay, this is to be expected in a democracy, but in the end, every measure needs to be proportionate, I should say. And it's legitimate to ask those questions. Obviously, we're not in a burning building situation, and we do have the time, but we don't have to lose focus from the goal. And it's, again, I'm pessimistic about how much it can be delivered from the current political configuration. I'm very pessimistic about the political forces that are posing as challengers, but in reality, they are going to be even more detrimental for our future. But I'm very optimistic about, as I said, the survival instinct, the survival mechanism that is going to kick in, and the huge range of productive forces that this continent has, also for historical and cultural reasons, because this is at some moment inevitably this is going to emerge.
We mentioned
with this, Krzysztof, I think we can end this
the episode.
Yes, I'm under severe pressure. We'll do the taxation some other time.
Okay.
I have to go pick up my daughter for horseback riding.
That's something you can discuss with. How do we finish it?
Like this. I have to take my daughter to horseback riding.